Thank you once again, Hazwan, for the sharing on doctoroncall.com just now. So I think you guys know where to go after this. No need to Google about your symptoms or anything. Just go straight to doctoroncall.com.my. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, most of us are currently coping with the transition between working from home and going back to office. So I think most of you now are actually in the office. So our next speaker will share with us how employers and employees can work effectively and efficiently in a post-MCO working environment. So Derek To is the founder and CEO of WOBBjobs.com. He has been a speaker at a debate moderated by BBC World News. So now Derek wants to build a future of work to help the job seekers out there to find the job that they will love. So ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, Derek To.
Hi, everyone. I'm Derek. I'm the founder of WOBB, and so I know we are actually going through like a very strange time right now. I think we can all agree, because just a couple of months ago, due to the pandemic, a lot of companies were actually forced to kind of make everyone work from home pretty much. So working from home has actually been, or remote working has actually been like a concept that has existed for a while now, but obviously it's not really been adopted before, because I suppose in most cases there wasn't a strong need to do that, right? So companies therefore, pretty much opted for working in the office. A small group of companies allow people to kind of work remotely from home, and that's pretty much it. But because of what happened a few months ago, everyone was forced to kind of figure it out. So that was the kind of the incentive for companies to figure it out. And right now you could say that most people are still adjusting to it, right? So we're kind of in between, in the sense of, there are some companies that have opted to continue like fully remote. Many have gone into the office, but most are kind of in between, right? Like kind of like in hybrid mode. So before I kind of go into detail about some of the challenges that you face, because I think right now there are a lot of problems that arise from having to kind of adjust to this environment, not just for employees, but also for employers. Give a bit of context as to kind of who I am and what I do. So for those of you who haven't heard of WOBB before, we are the leading youth career platform in Malaysia. We're the first one to just focus on specializing in professional youth. And internally, we have a mission, right, to be an inspiration to other companies, whether they're big or small, how to create like a positive, high-performance workplace. So what I mean by that is, obviously, as a company, as a business, we want a high-performance workplace. That's very obvious. But we told ourselves that we don't want to do it in a way that it's like we're a horrible place to work in. Like we want a culture that's very positive. People are inspired rather than forced to do things. People are motivated through positivity rather than through fear. So we want to kind of put these two things together when we started the company. On top of the fact that we are obviously a job platform ourselves. So we actually launched about 5 years ago. For those of you who don't know, that's a picture of me alone by myself. Zero revenue, I was the only employee. We built a website. When I say we, I mean me, at the time. It cost 6,500 ringgit, the website. And the platform, if you've ever been on if you ever downloaded our app or been to our website, you see it's very different from a typical job platform. So it was there were many challenges trying to go into market, but yet today, we've had revenues of like over 8 digits already. So I won't go into the exact number, but I'm just trying to say that we've actually achieved a lot of success, in the last 5 years, right? Just specializing in professional juniors. So some stats about internal talent. Now this is not so as a platform. Obviously, we have a very large database. We have like about almost 500,000 users right now, and lots of employees that use us, but just internally, right? So we have about 50 employees, full-timers, excluding interns. 70% of them join as fresh graduates, and the average age of the team is about 28 years old, and 60% of the leadership team actually comprise of women. So, and this is all completely merit-based. We promote people based on merit, and this is how the team currently looks like right now. So because we operate in the technology industry, so a lot of the products that we create is just directly, the quality of the talent has a direct relationship between how we do as a company, right? The quality and performance of talent. So therefore, it's like a number one priority for us. So I'm just giving some context in the sense of, as a technology company, we want to do well, right? We want our team to be productive. At the same time, we want them to be positively motivated to do what they do, right? Without going through all the stress, without going through unnecessary stress. At the same time, because we are a job portal, we are a job platform, we also talk directly to a lot of employers, so we know what are the challenges that people are facing, and also employees, what challenges they are facing. And what I'm about to share today is based not just on theory, but theory that's been applied, applied internally within our company, and also applied from what I know from other different companies right here in Malaysia right now. So obviously we care a lot about how engaged our own employees are. We send out this like anonymous survey. Again, this gives context as to why I can share this, and there's some relevance there. So we did this anonymous survey internally within our company. So the engagement score was 7.7 over 10, which is very good for like a technology company that's obviously typically quite a challenging or stressful environment. But then we did it again earlier this year, and it's at 8.7. So you can see that we are actually doing even better. We continue to do better. At the same time, our company is actually growing. So we know it's possible, right? Build a successful business, at the same time have a really positive culture. So I'm going to share with you some of the things that we've learned recently due to the fact that everyone is now forced to kind of figure out how to work, So there are two types of working styles in general. Obviously, there's office-based work and there's remote work. So like I said in the beginning, everyone knows what office-based work is. You know how to operate in the office. We've been doing it for decades. So that I won't really go into detail how to work in the office. You already know how to do that. The part that is new to a lot of people is the remote work part. How do I be successful while I'm working remotely, at the same time kind of manage the challenges that automatically occur? And now, especially when many companies are in between, you are transitioning from working remotely to going back to the office, and many companies have adopted kind of like a 50-50 approach. Some teams rotate, as I understand. Maybe certain teams come in 1 week, another team goes in another week, so it's 50-50 to avoid contact. Some teams have opted for, like you decide yourself, right? Some companies have said, okay, like if you think some days you want to work remotely, some days you want to come in, it's okay, because we already figured out how to work remotely. So that's kind of hybrid. Now, so what are the problems? Well, the problems is two, actually. First is how to be productive and how to be seen as productive, and I'll explain the reason why these are problems. So we all know the challenges of working remotely. I'm going to focus a bit more on working remotely first. So how to be productive working remotely? Well, you're in the office, you have everything, right? You have your desk, you have your colleagues, you have all your rooms, and all the stuff is there, and you're very, you already know what you need to do. You can talk to people very easily, and now suddenly when you're at home, this thing completely changes. Now suddenly you're not around colleagues. It's a bit more difficult to talk to people, and you're supposed to be productive, right? On top of the challenges that you're facing at home. You have like some people have kids, or like they live with family, or they don't have a proper workspace. It's all very challenging. The second part is how to be seen as productive. So even though if you are actually productive, if you're not seen as productive, that actually causes some problems. And I'll explain why, right? So if you look at this kind of simple thing that I put up here, very simplistic. So on one axis, you see either unproductive, someone's actually unproductive, and someone is very productive, and then the other someone is seen as unproductive, with someone that is actually seen as productive. So I'm going to talk about the extremes first. So if you're actually seen as productive, and you're also productive, you're productive and you're seen as productive, obviously you're going to be a star. Right, the company loves you, you do well, you're also happy, you probably grow. On the other extreme, if you are unproductive and you're seen as unproductive, that's a really bad place to be in right now. So I would suggest you try to change something sooner, right? If you're unproductive and you're seen as productive, it's kind of like a danger area to be in right now. Now let's look at this part here. If you are actually unproductive but you're seen as productive, some people do this really well. They carry themselves very well. People think they're busy. People think they're doing well. Now, in the short term, you're actually going to be okay. So I put stagnant because obviously your results of your work won't help you grow. So you can't be stagnant. But the long term, right, you can't be found out, and you might move down here. The greatest frustration is for people in this group here, right? You're actually productive, but you're seen as unproductive. You're going to have some real trust issues. So, and you don't want to be there. So let's try to focus on that. So first, I'm going to talk about how to be productive, right, in a remote working environment. In WOBB, and I suggest this, I keep on echoing this to a lot of companies, we do something called a daily morning huddle. What that means is that every team lead, every manager has like a quick catch up with their entire team over video every morning, right? And the main reason we do that is not just in terms of keeping people accountable, but it is to signal to everyone. Imagine you're working from home, is to signal to everyone that the workday has started, right? You're all together, and it doesn't have to take long, 10, 15 minutes. Just say, hey, what are you going to be doing today? Now, in the office environment, right, it's very easy to know when the workday has started. You could be like in the car, you might be half asleep, you could be in the MRT, doesn't matter what it is. But as soon as you walk into the office, right, the workday has started. But this is not the case when you're at home. You need something to signal to everyone the workday has started. So a daily morning huddle is very effective. And we ask three main questions, right? The team asked me three main questions in the huddle. Number one, what did you complete yesterday? Number two, what prevented you from completing any tasks yesterday? And number three, what you complete today. That's it. Just a quick catch up, sometimes take 5-10 minutes, just talk about what you did yesterday, what prevented you, and what you complete today. And for the rest of the day, no one will bother you, unless you need to talk to someone, right? And you can just focus on your work. So those three questions asked everyone. Now, we have this framework called the 3 A's of remote working in WOBB. So this helps everyone kind of build trust and know that people are actually working, so we don't start questioning each other whether people are working or not. So what are the 3 ways of three A's of remote working? The first one is being active. So we came up with this because before MCO, WOBB has always allowed people to work remotely. But some of the challenges with working remotely is people misunderstand what it means to be remote working. So I have situations where someone says, "Oh, I need to work remotely tomorrow." Right, and then and then on the next day when they say they're working remotely, and you try to contact them, try to talk to them, and say, "Oh, actually, I'm at the bank, but I'm still replying to messages, or actually I'm at the post office, I'm trying to run a personal errand, but I'm still contactable. You can talk to me, I'll still reply, I'll still be working, But what I'm trying to get across to everyone, that's not working. Right? Because you're contactable, because you can answer questions, you can work out problems together. You're not actually working because you're like running personal errands. Working, being active to us, means that you're literally sitting, imagining you're in the office, except you're not. You're sitting in front of your laptop doing your work, as usual, except you're not in the office environment, you're at home. So just to help everyone kind of understand that, however you are working in the office, just replicate it as though you're working at home, and that's it. And that's what being active actually means. So a lot of people misunderstand like remote working as I can kind of do my thing. As long as I'm replying to messages, I'm working. No, it's not. That doesn't mean you're working. So being active means being active, actually working. Number two is being accessible, right? So what does it mean be accessible? That means if someone needs to contact you, you can actually be contacted for discussion. So in an office environment, if I have a problem I need solving, right, and I need to talk to someone in another team, within my team, doesn't matter, I can just walk up to their desk, I can have a quick conversation, done, and then I go back and do my work. That's why it's very efficient. Right? I can knock in the office or whatever it is. But in a remote working environment, because we can't see each other, so I might have to call someone very quickly. But if I'm calling someone very quickly and I can't get hold of them once, and I can't get hold of them twice, I can't get hold of them 3 times, what do you think happens? Right? Trust issues. Right? So are you actually working? And they actually kind of help and actually holds people back as a team from doing their work. So the second rule for us is like being accessible, meaning that if someone reaches out to you, you have to be able to get on the call with them like immediately, like as though you're sitting on your desk. Being accountable basically means that everything that you do, is recorded, is recordable, has some kind of like a trail where someone can see if they want to review a work that is actually there. So those three things is the framework of how we operate remote, and we repeat it constantly in the company. Sometimes as a learning process, people don't really understand what it means, but just by following these three things, we know that everyone is being productive, and we don't have to worry, right? There are no trust issues. Everyone can focus on their work and not try to be seen as productive. Now, your company so may or may not obviously practice something like this. So regardless of your employer, I would suggest that everyone kind of practice this yourself to build trust, right? So even if your employer doesn't impose this, just remember the 3 A's as you're working. This is actually very important. One other thing I'll say is video call is definitely better than the phone call, 100%. Because when you're in the office, you can see each other, you feed off each other's energy. When you're working remotely at home, it can get a bit lonely. I think sometimes it's very hard. After a while, you get a bit tired, you don't see your colleagues and stuff. So the best way to recreate that is, even though you think a phone call is faster, do it over video, right? Even if it's 1 minute. This is very obvious when you set goals and KPIs for everyone. Make sure that's result-based and not activity or time-based. It's very challenging to have in a remote working environment to set activities or set goals based on time due to the fact that people are not working on things together anymore. So the best way to build trust and to keep everyone accountable productive is to set a result-based goal. So I would suggest everyone to kind of respect your office hours. I'm all talking about all this to kind of help everyone become productive. So what I mean by respect your office hours, number one is, let's say if you're working from 9 to 6 or 9 to 5, whatever your working hours are, during your working hours, you are working. You are actually working, even though you're actually at home. And one of the things to help you overcome that barrier is not just yourself, even within your family, you have to explain to people that you are actually working. I've heard stories of, because most people still live with their families, like parents will knock on their doors and say, hey, can you help fetch me to this place? Or hey, can you help me do this and that? Because you're at home, right? So they think that they can just talk to you, but actually you are in front of your laptop, you're actually doing work, and you might be talking to colleagues, or you're trying to rush a report out, whatever it is. You explain to people who live in your home, from 9 to 5, I'm actually working. It's kind of like I'm in an office. So as much as possible, unless it's super urgent, like maybe give me my space. Explain to everyone. Avoid distractions. I'll tell everyone, avoid sitting in front of the TV or sitting in the open where it's very easy to distract you. I know it's not a luxury a lot of people can have. You might not have like a separate room, but try to do that if you can. And because you are probably still going to be less productive than in the office, I typically recommend to people to try to make up for it with the save time that you save from commuting, right? So that's very important. Your calendar, make sure you follow your calendar. So your calendar is basically your boss. So what I mean by that is every single thing that you do, if you say now it's time to do this, time to do that, you just follow very strictly. Be very disciplined. Now, how to be seen as productive? The first thing I'll say is, nobody knows you're working unless you proactively volunteer that information. This is a remote working environment, right? So if by the time your employer or manager feels the urge to check in on you, it's probably too late already. It means they're wondering, hey, what is this person doing? Let's say the people start thinking like this, you're probably kind of in damage control zone. You are in trust, you're going to have trust problems already. So always over-communicate. Right? Always volunteer proactively, take initiative, communicate what you're doing, ask questions. Don't just wait for people to come to you. There are lots of people out there, I believe even in the office, right? There's this, I know some people believe, if I do good work, people will notice me. If I do good work, it doesn't work like that, unfortunately. People don't really know what you're doing until you communicate. So it's going to be even worse now that people can't see you and you're actually at home, right? So over-communicate. So some ideas how you can over-communicate is you can schedule regular FaceTime, right? So you can talk to whoever your manager regularly. One thing you could kind of try to ask them is like, so I want to think about this. In the office, I can see you, you can see me. It's very easy for everyone to know everyone's kind of working productive as a team, but it's not the same at home. So you can now ask your manager something like, now that it's harder to have a quick catch up in person, can I schedule a short 10-minute weekly one-on-one catch up with you? That's it. Right, 10 minutes, even though there's no real need, I just want 10 minutes to talk to you about stuff I've been working on. Maybe I have a quick question I can ask you, right? So again, if someone tries to reach out to you repeatedly, but they can't, that creates trust problems. So one other thing I would suggest is, you practice having an open calendar, because sometimes it's not your fault. You might actually be in a call, be in a meeting, that's why they can't contact you. But it happens repeatedly, people will wonder. So you have an open calendar, people can see exactly what you're doing during the day, and you record all the work that you're doing on, even stuff that you're doing as an individual. Right? Let's say if I'm working on a presentation later today at 4 o'clock, from 4 to 5, I'll block it as doing presentation. Right? So I want to talk about the hybrid or transitioning, right? So working at home, individual work is actually better when you're working from home, and actually collaboration is better when you're working in the office. So I suggest create predictable routines when you're working from home in the office. So let's say Monday is a great time to be in the office. You can all come out as a team. You can start talking. You're collaborating very quickly, and kind of sets the tone for what you're going to do for the rest of the week. And Friday is also, I find, typically a good day to be in the office, because if you're at home, it's so close to the weekend, you might be a bit unproductive. You'll be like, in the Friday mood, I don't really feel like working. So it's actually a good day to kind of bookend the week by having these 2 days in the office. And in between Tuesday to Thursday, you can kind of flip when you want to be at home and want to be office. And I would suggest, obviously, dedicating entire days to either being at home or being in the office, because sometimes if you're kind of 50-50, morning you work from office, afternoon you work from home, a lot of people tend to use that travel time as work time, and actually eats into your productivity. If you're just working in the office, by the way, you commute before the start of the workday, not in the workday. So it actually takes away your time, right? And last and not least, I would suggest, sorry, I just kind of bombarded everyone with a lot of tips. I would suggest that because most companies are very open-minded, very flexible right now, you can negotiate with your employer, because you're getting used to this, right? You're getting used to being at home and now going back to the office and trying to save time doing it. Arrange to see you can negotiate traveling at off-peak hours. Maybe you can start the day super early at 7 and you leave at 4, something like that, right? Negotiate something that works for you, for your working style, and works for your family, and helps you transition, so you save the time for the commute. So this is me. I'm very active on LinkedIn. Obviously, you can check out WOBB if you want, but also you can follow me on LinkedIn. And if you have any questions, you can ask. I know there are question time after this, but you can also message me directly after that. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much, Derek, for the sharing just now. So I know it's not easy to transition from working from home and finally you have to come back to the office. If previously office is just a blink away from you, because when you open your eyes in the morning, you're already in the office, right? But now we have to travel again, and then it's something very hard to do. So we have a question from the audience. It's from Esther. So with the MCO, where children are around, how to stay active as intermittently there is a need to attend to significant others? So what do you think about this, Derek?
Yeah, so this is a very real thing that can happen, even internally within WOBB, because all the schools are closed and we have a lot of parents in the office. It does happen to us as well. So the one thing I would suggest is to be able to openly communicate this with your team, right? Can be your manager, stuff like that. Just say like, oh, look, my child is with me at home. We don't have a big home, and as much as possible, obviously, I'll be focusing on work, but there will be moments where it's very easy to get distracted, right? Like you can't control a 2-year-old or 3-year-old. It's impossible. While you're doing a video call, they might kind of jump on your lap and stuff like that. But I think being open about it with the team is very important. That's number one. And the reason why I want to say that is that you shouldn't feel like it's an entitlement, in the sense where the company should just understand that you're in this situation. I mean, your company wants everyone to be working productively. But if you proactively communicate this and you say, okay, this is the situation, but obviously I will be trying my best to focus. I will try to make up my time, let's say whenever, my child's having a nap or something like that. So that you communicate the steps you're taking in order to kind of balance this out a little bit. And if you can do that, right, so even if, going back to accessible, if you openly communicate this and people are reasonable, right? People are not going to be like, hey, no, you can't do this. If you openly communicate this and people try to reach you and say, oh, sorry, I'm kind of in the middle of something, can I get back to you in like 10, 15 minutes? People will be very, very understanding, because we know it's true. Like, this is your situation at home. What shouldn't happen is that because you have this your kids or whatever your parents at home that you take care of, when people contact you and ask you for help, that you feel that, hey, you know, I'm in this situation, like you feel entitled to this. I'm new on this situation, and you shouldn't be constantly trying to contact me for work, because it's not your colleague's fault, right? For them, they are trying to be productive. It's not their fault. So if they're trying to contact you, I think it's still kind of on you to say that, oh, look, I'm really sorry, I can't get to this immediately, but I will try. And I think that keeps the trust among the team very strong, right? So I hope. So when I say active, basically means that we are trying to be active. It's like a framework, but if you communicate to the team openly, then everyone learns how to work together, and you try to find a way to make up for it later.
All right, so I think the key here is to communicate with your team, and it's okay to over-communicate. Okay, guys, we have another question from Wong. Not many people would like to be seen as productive. Okay, what is the method of encourage them to tell superior or bosses on what they have done? It feels like there is no trust between us. Employees need to report from time to time on what they have done instead of just showing result at the end. Interesting question.
Yes, I think so. If I'm understanding this correctly, for me, I think it goes back to a bit of the relationship between the employer and employee, or like the manager and the employee, right? Sometimes when I first chat with people, the 3As and how we do like the daily morning huddle, there are some people who respond, who say, oh, that's a great idea. That keeps everyone motivated and moving along. And another group of people respond, oh, that's micromanaging. That's micro. Why do you have to keep on checking on me about what I'm doing? That's micromanaging. And you can see it comes down to basically the relationship, the perception the employee has with their management. So I think for some people, the reason why I say it two ways is because for some people they feel like this. So I think as an employer, I know it's hard to adjust currently to this, because employers are a bit anxious. They want people to be productive, right? It's a very tough time in the economy. But you can also kind of lead a bit by kind of giving people some trust, like have some warmth when you're talking to them, and help people understand that the reason we're doing this is not because I'm trying to micromanage you to make sure you're doing your work. The reason we're doing this is so that everyone knows what everyone's doing, and we're all aligned, and we can move, coordinate and move forward as a team, right? And there's not going to be any trust issues between. So the way the employer communicates with the person as they're talking about this is important, right? You're not there to like, hey, what you been doing yesterday? How come I haven't done this? Like, if you go down that path, right, it's so unpleasant for the employee to want to talk to you. Do you see what I mean? Every time I want to talk to you, I get a scolding. So it's not a pleasant kind of interaction. So both sides need to kind of adjust and kind of say, if an employee comes and say, oh, look, I didn't manage to do this because of 1, 2, 3, and the employer, I suggest you don't snap immediately, kind of work through with them a bit, have some empathy and say, oh, okay, I understand. So how do you think I can help you with this? And over time, you kind of make the employee don't feel a feeling of negativity when they want to actually talk to you. In fact, they will look forward to actually talk to you because they know that you're coaching them or you're going to help them with this. So that's how trust builds over time. You can do the short weekly schedule. Like if they don't volunteer, by the way, to proactively share with you what they're doing, I suggest you might do like a quick 10 minutes with them every week, just to get them used to it, to kind of build that habit.
All right, thank you for the answer just now. So it is very important to have communication between the employers and employees, and it always goes hand in hand, where actually it goes both ways. Not only the employees have to play the role, the employees as well. So you have to you have to always play your role. Like employees, you cannot micromanage, and the employee at the same time, you don't take advantage on the leniency of the employer. So we're moving on to our next question from Sam. How do we cope with employers who micromanage because of the lack of trust? I think Derek already answered a little bit on this, but maybe Derek, you can add more a bit.
Yes, I think so. I did mention over communicate a little bit earlier, but what I want you to imagine, right, as with any kind of human relationship, right? This is not just between employer and employer. When there are two people with a relationship with each other, there's some kind of emotional bank between the two of you, right? Emotional bank being that if I help you, and I keep building the emotional bank, and then you help me, and then you keep building it, and it stacks up, and the emotional bank is full, there's trust between both sides, right? But in the case when the emotional bank is empty, right? Like there's no you constantly tell me off when I do something wrong, and I don't feel I want to talk to you, so I keep hiding. It's like a negative cycle, and you keep depleting that bank. That there's only one direction you will go. So when I say over communicate, what I'm really telling the employee is that you volunteer. Yes, maybe your employer's personality is like this, or maybe the emotional bank is like zero. There's no trust there. You keep on over communicating what you're doing. You keep on trying to build trust. You take the step forward, and over time they will reciprocate, right? Because you will find that the employers probably have people that they don't feel the same, like they trust, and it might be because the emotional bank is very full. So the best way you can actually do it is basically to volunteer, proactively over communicate, and try to build trust yourself, and hopefully they reciprocate. Now obviously there will be cases that if you do this a long time and nothing changes, and that's really your employer is like that, then that can't be helped. I'm not asking people to change jobs. I'm just saying that obviously what you can probably do is work on yourself, right? Because the question let's say if you're thinking, how can I change my employer? What technique can you use to change my employer? It's not so useful because it's very hard to change them. So you focus on what you can do, which is like you try to build trust with them, you proactively over communicate, and hopefully they reciprocate.
Yeah, I like that sharing where we cannot change someone, but you always can change yourself. So when you can change yourself, you can always influence others to change as well, right? So we have more questions from the audience. It's from Emily this time. There's a downside for working remotely, as there is a tendency for many to continue working even after office hour or over the weekend, because it is too convenient now for workaholics to work non-stop. So what is your view on this?
You're talking to someone who works non-stop, so I'm not sure whether I can give you good advice. I will fall back a little bit about the concept of work-life balance. Me, on a personal level, I think work-life balance isn't the right word to be thinking about. I think it just depends on you, like what your preference is. Some people enjoy doing that work, and they're still able to have that family time. They're able to figure it out, and they work late, they work on the weekends, but they like it. That's up to you. So I don't think it is really an issue, as long as you know how, what kind of life that you actually want, right? So I wouldn't say that just because I make you stop at 7 o'clock or 6 o'clock, suddenly your life will be happier. Some people, they start at 7 o'clock and say, I don't know what to do now, right? You want me to watch watch TV? I don't watch TV. I don't know what to do. I like doing what I'm doing, which is basically me. So I like doing what I'm doing, but I have a great relationship with the family, because when I'm with the family, I really focus on family time. What I can suggest though for employers, by the way, is to try to respect people's time at home, because I know employers, again, people are anxious. You want your team, you want your employees to be really productive. I have to tell everyone, like, if it's past 6, 7 o'clock, whatever your office hours are, really, really refrain from trying to ask them a question or like trying to give them work at that time. Let everyone have their family time. If your employee reaches out to you to ask a question, to discuss something, that's fine, right? I have people who work really hard in WOBB, in the company, and on weekends they message me asking me questions, or they want something. I talk to them because that's their choice. But I will never do it the other way around, if that makes sense. If I think of something on a Saturday or Sunday and I need to talk to, say, person A, what I do is I write the note, and I'll schedule that note to be sent out on Monday morning, so that they get it on Monday. I don't interrupt their weekend. So what I suggest for employees to do is to do that, like respect of people's time. If they want to work harder, that's up to them, but it shouldn't be imposed on them.
All right, that's a very interesting view from Derek on work-life balance, or maybe we can redefine it to work-life optimization, because not everything is about balance. It's not everything about yin and yang. There's always a gray area in the middle. So now we're moving on to the next question from Game. May I know what is the minimum capital outlay to implement this initiative for a team environment of 10 staff? So...
I think I'm not sure which initiative you're actually referring to. I suppose it depends on the timing on when the question was actually asked. But everything that I shared earlier, from the 3 A's, to the kind of daily huddles that we do, all this doesn't cost any money. It's just process, right? We're just building process. So if you're referring to those things. Everything that I shared about, like working based on your calendar, all those things are just process. So anyone can implement it. Any company can implement it. I mean, we are not a big company in the grand scheme of things, and we implement a lot of these work practices very effectively.
All right, Game, if you feel that doesn't answer your question because we are not sure which initiative are you referring to, you can always reach Derek to his LinkedIn. So we have another question from Esther. Does your company require all employees to be on video mode during discussion or meetings for greater authenticity interactions? Some people may prefer to be on black screen mode, perhaps due to WFH. They are not comfortable to be seen and for privacy reasons, unlike in office where most would be wearing office attire, etc. and on a face-to-face mode. Yeah, interesting question as well. So what do you think, Derek?
The answer is yes. Everyone has to be on video. And if you're not dressed to be on video, get dressed, right? Because again, I come back to the 3 A's. You're supposed to be active and accessible. That means if someone, imagine you're in the office, right? Except you're not. If someone was contacting you and want to talk to you, you have to be able to switch on the video and talk to them immediately, right? So, again, I'm not asking anyone to put on a shirt or tie. That's not what I'm saying. But dress professionally, comfortably at home, but professional, that we can talk to people and they're comfortable. So we do town halls with 50 people, and even though I'm the only person speaking, I require all 50 people to switch on their video. Only a small group of people sometimes don't, and they explain why. Maybe really their home environment is not suitable to have that video, but 99% of the people switch on their video. So we do force people to do it, because I think, I would use the word they're using, there's greater authenticity interaction. Not only can I hear your voice, I can see your face, and it's actually much more efficient.
All right. Okay, do we have come to the last question from the audience? It comes from Nurul. How do we stay motivated to be productive while working at home? Is there any tips to improve motivation or morale?
Yeah, I think so. Coming back to what I talked about today, right? I think the biggest challenge about working from home is that you're not around colleagues and you're a different environment. When you're actually in the office, like I said earlier, when you walk in the office, it signals to you the workday has started. You see your colleagues, there's this energy, right? There's a social element to it, being in the office. You're talking to people. You're working, you're also talking to your friends, and you energize each other. Now, at work, you can work, but you can't replicate that feeling of being around your colleagues. And that's the reason why I suggested doing a daily morning huddle to help the team start the day together. We're all together. We're all in separate places, but we can see each other, and let's talk about what we're all doing today, right? So and the second thing is do it over video so that you can actually see each other. It's not just on the phone. It's not so cold, and you see each other. And again, when I say do video, what I mean is that even any small thing, if I want to ask a colleague a question, if it's a 1-minute question, I never call, I do a video call, right? And it's the same for everyone. They want to ask me something very quick, just 2 questions, 1 question, they do a video call, right? They don't do it on the phone. And that kind of, as much as possible, kind of recreates that energy, even though you're working from home. I will kind of top up, add on and to say that if working from home 100% goes on permanently, it's a challenge. This everything I suggested right now helps you stay a bit motivated, helps reduce, I suppose, what it feels like to be working from home, but you should still see your colleagues. So if this is something that we haven't implemented yet in WOBB, but we will. If this goes on for a very long time and people don't see each other enough, we'll probably ask our colleagues to schedule coffees with each other every now and then, or to have one-on-one chats over video every now and then to recreate that feeling of being in a team, even though there may not be an obvious necessity for it. But it's very important, I find, in order to keep everyone's... not everything's transactional, right? We're all people, we're all human beings, and that relationship is really important.
All right, thank you, Derek, for the session. I think we have reached to the end of the session today. This time. So thank you so much for your time. And I know that you have a lot of questions, but we couldn't share it now. You can always reach Derek on his LinkedIn account. And we still have more for you guys after this. Please stay tuned and see you guys.